Alright, so the Ibrox draw. If you spent the week building this one up in your head, you probably had two clear outcomes playing over and over. Either Celtic would go in there play like champions, take control of the park, silence the home support, and leave with a big statement win. Or Rangers would make it 3 in a row, continue the recent Derby dominance, and send a message of their own that they're not done yet. But what we got neither, just a draw, and not even the kind that leaves you buzzing or totally deflated. Just that flat weird in between feeling. Bit of a shrug, bit of what now? You look around online at the forums, Twitter, wherever folk are chatting. You'll see it's been met with a strange cocktail of emotions. Some people are fuming we didn't finish the job. Others are oddly satisfied. The truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. It wasn't a disaster, far from it. But it wasn't the kind of performance that sends shivers through the rest of the league either. And yet when you dig into the game, you do start to find wee moments of clarity, wee hints that things are moving in the right direction again. First off, let's not ignore the context. We went into that game missing 4 nailed-on starters, big players. Kasper Schmeichel, Alistair Johnston, Jaw, and Nicholas. All of them would have walked into that starting 11. So to go into a hostile, Ibrox against a Rangers side desperate to prove something and still come away with a draw while arguably being the better footballing side. That's no small thing. And Ibrox is always a tough place to go. Doesn't matter what kind of form they're in. Doesn't matter who's top of the table. It's always a battle. So let's not scoff at the result just because it wasn't a win. When you look at how we played, there were some real positives. It felt like for the first time in a few derbies, we actually looked like we belonged on that pitch again. There was more control in the middle of the park, more intent with a ball. We were building through their press a lot more confidently. Callum McGregor and Brendan Rodgers both mentioned it after the match, how we were able to manipulate their diamond in midfield, use the fullbacks to narrow the pitch, then switch it quickly. You saw it with Greg Taylor, especially first half. He was popping up in acres of space, dictating the tempo. Now look, the finishing wasn't there, not even close. Adam Maida had 4 or 5 looks at goal, and aside from the one he buried, he was wasteful. And that was sort of the story of the game, wasn't it? We'd work the ball into good areas, get into promising positions, and then just overhit the cross delay, the final pass, or get blocked at the last second. It was like watching a team that had all the ideas, but none of the execution. And that's frustrating, because when you play better than you have in months in this fixture, you want that to mean something. You want the scoreboard to reflect it. It didn't, and yet I don't think we can ignore the signs of growth. Compared to the last couple of derbies, especially the cup final, this felt more like Celtic. The Celtic that takes charge of matches, moves the ball with pace and confidence, and imposes its style regardless of the venue. We didn't allow Rangers to bully us. We didn't get dragged into their kind of game. We were just missing that killer edge. Maybe that's rust, maybe that's missing personnel, maybe that's just football sometimes. But I will say this, and it's something that's been gnawing at me for a few derbies now. We're still a bit too soft in this fixture. Not in the quality, but in the bite. You watch them, and they've got guys who come into these matches with a chip on their shoulder. Players who want to stir it up, who want to get in our faces, rile the crowd, bring chaos. We laugh at them, the bottle throwing, the Instagram posts, the antics, and fair enough, most of it is pathetic. But the truth is they're coming in with fire. And I don't always see that from us. Callum McGregor is maybe the only player on our side who really seems up for the fight every single time. He's the one barking, getting stuck, and showing emotion. The rest far too polite, far too composed. And maybe that's part of the identity Brendan Rodgers is building. A team that plays with their heads, not their hearts. But in this fixture, sometimes you need to show your teeth. You need that bit of aggression, that controlled nastiness, that you're not walking over us today energy. And that's why I agree with the folks saying Kieran Tierney would make a massive difference. Not just because he's a cracking left back, we know that already, but because he brings attitude. He brings that warrior mindset, the kind of player who'll stick a reducer in early and set the tone. Same with Alistair Johnston when he's fully fit. You get those two in a team, alongside McGregor, maybe at another strong midfielder in the summer window, and suddenly you've got a spine with some real steel. Because look, football-wise, we are the better team. That's not even up for debate. They created most of their chances from dead balls. Set pieces, scrappy knockdowns, hopeful crosses. We were the ones trying to play, and for long spells we did. But it's not always the pretty team that wins these games. Sometimes it's the team that's willing to fight for every blade of grass to make life miserable for their opposition. And if there's one criticism I'd throw at this current Celtic squad, it's that we've been a bit too nice lately, especially in derbies. That said, I think the lack of intensity in this particular game might also be down to context. Let's be honest, it was a bit of a dead rubber. Rangers took 7 points off us in the last 3 derbies, and they're still nearly 20 points behind. That tells its own story. The league is wrapped up, we're focused on the cup final now. That's the real prize. So it's maybe understandable if the fire wasn't quite roaring in the bellies of the players. Still, you want to see more bite, more defiance, more edge. Not to become like them, throwing bottles and posting nonsense on social media, but just to show that we won't be pushed around. Vaclav Černý carried on like an idiot in the last match at Celtic Park, and no one laid a glove on him this time. Raskin does the same every derby. He's a pest. You want to see someone put in a proper challenge, let him know it's not going to be a walk in the park. That's what these games are about. And I know there's a line. No one's asking for red cards or flying elbows. But there's a middle ground between losing your head and doing nothing. And right now I feel like we're leaning a bit too far toward doing nothing. It's not the biggest issue in the world, especially when you're top of the table and on track for another treble. But it's one that needs addressing if we want to consistently dominate this fixture again. Now, let's talk a wee bit about Sinazalo. First derby, massive atmosphere, hostile crowd, and he looks solid. Really solid. Made a smart early save from a deflected shot, stayed composed when called upon, dealt well with that dodgy back pass. From Carter Vickers, which by the way was reckless as anything. And apart from that disallowed goal, which he probably should have done better with, he didn't put a foot wrong. The Rangers support tried to rattle him, chucking things on the pitch and creating their usual circus, but he didn't bite. That's promising. And what about Ari Engel? He splits opinion, no doubt. But I thought his set pieces were excellent. Delivered some dangerous balls into the box, especially early on. He's still adjusting to the physicality, to the speed of the game here, but he's got quality. He just needs to be more involved, more aggressive with his body, impose himself. I saw bits of that at the start of the match. Now we just need to see it consistently. James Forrest deserves a mention too. Veteran presence, calm under pressure. Good decisions on the ball. Maybe went down a bit too easily a couple of times. You're not getting those calls at Ibrox, but overall he showed his experience. Should have been slipped in by Ida at one point. A real chance that was wasted, but still solid shift from Forrest. Bottom line, it was a better performance than the last few derbies. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't dominant, but it was better. And with key players missing and the cup final ahead, maybe that's all we needed. We stopped the rot. We gave ourselves a platform to build from. And maybe, just maybe, we reminded the Rangers support that as much as they enjoy these wee moral, victories, the trophies still live on the green side of Glasgow. And that at the end of the day is what matters, because no matter how much noise they make, no matter how many bottles they throw, or cringy tifos they unveil, they've still got nothing to show for it. No trophies, no progress. Just more of the same, chasing shadows while we lift silverware. So while the focus now shifts to the Scottish Cup final, and rightly so, there's still that lingering feeling of what if about Ibrox. What if we'd been that little bit sharper? What if we'd had one or two of the missing lads back in the lineup? What if that final ball had come off just once? But that's football, isn't it? Full of almost and maybes. Still, the signs were there. The foundation looks stronger than it has in weeks. And now, with the league all but wrapped, we've got a couple of matches to get ourselves tuned up, rested, and ready to finish the season with a flourish. Brendan Rodgers has made it clear. The priority now is being in top shape for the cup final. And you can already see the rotation beginning. Carter Vickers, for instance, has been playing through a bit of a hamstring issue. He'll likely sit the next couple out to get treatment, same with Alistair Johnston. Both are expected back in time for the final, which is massive. Dyson Maeda, meanwhile, had only just come back from Japan, barely trained, and still managed to bag a goal and work himself into the ground like he always does. His wife is expecting, and he may well head back to Japan again. So don't be surprised if he misses the Hibs match. This is the point in the season where you manage minutes, protect your core players, and give some of the fringe lads a chance to step up. And there's still quality in that second group. We saw flashes of it at Ibrox, But make no mistake, Rodgers is thinking about one game now. The final, the treble. That's the story. Nicholas missed out on a derby with a knock picked up in the previous game. Just a bruised knee, apparently, so fingers crossed he's back in the mix soon as well. The idea is to have a full squad available when it matters most. And given the gap we've opened up in the league, there's no need to take risks. These next couple of fixtures are about rhythm, not results. That said, nobody wants to limp over. The line either, especially on Trophy Day. That should be a celebration, a reminder of how dominant we've been. So expect a strong lineup for that one. Now we can't move on without addressing, once again, the absolute circus at Ibrox. Buckfast bottles flying dodgy banners and a general lack of class from the home support. It's getting repetitive at this point. Every time we go there, it feels like there's some kind of incident, whether it's players getting things thrown at them flares on the pitch, or in this case, a banner that read, "Take aim against the rebel scum." Now I don't know who thought that was acceptable, but even Rangers came out and condemned it. That tells you something. They also issued a statement saying they're looking into the bottle throwing and plan to take the strongest possible action once they find out who was responsible. We'll see, but this stuff keeps happening and the pattern's clear. When you line up all the nonsense from the last few derbies, the Joe Hart incident, the Ari Engel bottle at the turn of the year, and now this, almost all of it is coming from their end. That's not opinion. That's just the reality. It's wild to think that for all the stick Celtic get from their support or the press when things aren't perfect, we still carry ourselves with a bit of dignity in these fixtures. We don't throw bottles, we don't roll out banners that cross the line, we don't get sucked into the gutter. And maybe that's why some of their fans are so angry. Because despite everything, despite them taking 7 points off us in 3 derbies, they're still trailing by nearly 20. The trophies are still heading to Celtic Park. That kind of golf eats away at you. You can feel it. It's in their players, it's in their fans, it's in the whole atmosphere. And I think deep down they know it. Because let's be honest, even with their wee run in the derbies, has anything really changed? They've got nothing to show for it. No trophies, no shift in power, just a couple of high-pressure matches where they got the better of us fair. I'll play. That happens. But we've steadied the ship now, and if anything, the draw at Ibrox might be the start of turning it back around. There was a sense that we'd stopped the bleeding, and from here we push on. Finish strong, win the cup, and go again next season. Callum McGregor spoke after the game about how we dealt with their midfield shape, how we managed to figure it out quickly and use our fullbacks to open up space. That shows game intelligence. That shows maturity. That's the kind of insight you want to hear from your captain. And it matched what we saw on the pitch. There was clarity in the way we played. Even Brendan Rodgers, who's usually measured in his comments, sounded quite upbeat. There's a belief building again. And let's not forget the awards ceremony that followed the match. A big night for Dazen Maida, Men's Player of the Year, Top Goal Scorer, Players Player of the Year. Well deserved. Ari Engel picked up Young Player of the Year. And Cameron Carter-Vickers got Goal of the Season for his strike against Kilmarnock. Over on the women's side, Shannon McGregor cleaned up with both Player of the Year and Goal of the Season, and Saoirse Noonan took home the Top Scorer award in her first season. Class. Proper recognition for what's been a massive campaign across the club. James Forrest also got a special recognition award, fitting for a guy who's given everything for the badge over the years. He showed on Sunday that he's still got a part to play, and with a squad this deep, with that mix of youth and experience, the future looks bright. Even the PFA awards reflected that. Maida again took top honors, and Lennon Miller was named Young Player of the Year. One to keep an eye on, possibly even in the hoops next season. So where does that leave us? Well, the treble is still very much on. 3 games to go, then the cup final. We managed the squad stay sharp and get the job done. Sunday's draw wasn't what we dreamed of, but it wasn't a nightmare either. We showed control, we showed progress, and we kept ourselves on track for another historic season. And as for Rangers, another year, another empty cabinet. No matter how many times they beat their chest, the real bragging rights are won in May. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Sergi Altimira, the talented midfielder from Real Betis, has officially confirmed his move to Celtic, sending ripples of excitement through the Hoops faithful and adding depth to Brendan Rodgers' evolving squad. The 22-year-old Spaniard, known for his composure on the ball and intelligent positioning, is set to bring a fresh dimension to Celtic's midfield, which has been calling for reinforcements following recent injuries and inconsistent performances. Altimira, who began his professional journey at Barcelona's famed La Masia Academy before making his name at Sabadell and later impressing at Getafe and Betis, expressed his enthusiasm about joining one of Scotland's most historic clubs. In his first remarks as a Celtic player, he said, "It's a dream to play for a club with such a rich history and passionate supporters. I'm eager to give my all and help the team compete at the highest levels." The transfer had been speculated for weeks, with Celtic's scouting department closely monitoring Altimira's development in La Liga. His versatility, capable of playing both as a deep-lying playmaker and a more advanced midfielder, made him a compelling target. Now the deal is done, and he arrives in Glasgow with high expectations but also a clear sense of purpose. Celtic fans, already buzzing with anticipation ahead of the season run-in and upcoming European qualifiers, will be eager to see how Altimira adapts to the physicality and tempo of the Scottish Premiership. Rodgers has been vocal about the need to inject energy and technical skill into his squad, and Altimira seems to fit the bill. The move is also a statement of Celtic's intent in the transfer market, not merely relying on domestic dominance, but looking to build a side capable of making waves in Europe. With Altimira joining the ranks, the Parkhead faithful can dare to dream that the club's continental ambitions might soon be matched by performances on the pitch. Will Altimira be the creative force Celtic has been craving? Time will tell, but one thing's certain: the boys have landed a player with the vision, pedigree, and hunger to make a real impact in green and white. Hello, fan! Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.